buff to it, but also a little bit of, well, it's more of a buff than a nerf, really. Um, Basically, when you use Sand Swell now, what happens is it's quicker. So instead of it being like a second for you to teleport between locations, it's more of it just instantly happens. So there's no more of you waiting in order to teleport. Because what happened was if you were to be in a duel or if you were in Rover's World and you were to use Sandswell and you got attacked while using it, what would happen is it would actually cancel out. So Sandswell wouldn't actually work. You wouldn't be able to teleport anywhere. Your teammates wouldn't be able to use it, and it would put your Sandswell instantly on a cooldown. So they kind of made it so that you'd instantly teleport. Your teammates can use it, and duration is 8 seconds. So you can use that to your advantage to teleport between the 2 points at any given time between those 8 seconds. It also gives your teammates barriers. So if anyone uses your Sandswell, what happens is once they teleport, they will end up getting a barrier based off whatever your health pool is. So whatever your health pool is, it'll take a fraction of that and it'll give them a barrier. For mine, it'll give each teammate 1,710. It also does boon conversions, and it will do negative movement speed on your target or anyone in that area. What the first person, so usually what people use Sandswell is they'll use it on a target for their teammates. So when they use the Sandswell on their target to teleport over there, it will take one of their boons and it'll turn it into a condition. So ultimately, it's useful for someone you're trying to boon rip. The boon conversions got nerfed a little bit. There's some skills that they changed to where instead of taking 2 boons and turning them into conditions, it now only takes 1 boon and turns it into a condition, or maybe even no boons whatsoever. I'll go over that in just a moment. There's also a blood magic change, if you didn't know. It's very good now as a support spec. It's always been a very good support spec, but now it's even better because of the fact that you get ultimately 1,200% more power overall, and your healing for you and your teammates is increased to 560%, which is a lot. Because the numbers add up over the time of damage or condition dealing, whatever you're doing. If you use F5 during the time of this being procced, so what I would do is during using blood magic, the ability is, or the trait is called. Let me see real. The trait for this is called Vampiric Presence, and when it procs, it lasts for like 9 or 10 seconds. What I would do, and what I've normally done, is I would cast F5, which in then would cause you to do 100% more healing, and you would have 100% more power. So overall, you'd have 1,300 power and 660% extra healing. Sand Cascade, which is F3. Yeah, F5 is Desert Shroud. Okay, I'll just say the names then instead of the F numbers. So F5, Desert Shroud. F3, which is Sand Cascade, it got a little bit of a nerf, but also a little bit of a, it's more kind of situational situational now, because it now, instead of having a 8-second cooldown, it now has a 10-second cooldown. But also it gives you 15% more barrier. So basically what happens is you can give your teammates barrier by using Sand Cascade. So when you use it, you give your teammates now 15% extra more barrier than you used to be able to give out. But you also need to be aware that instead of it being 8 seconds, it now has a 10-second cooldown. So you kind of want to be careful when you use it. You can't really spam it like you used to be able to. punishment skills. The punishment skills that caused torment. So any punishment skill you have will cause torment. They now have less duration than they used to be. People have been wondering what happens if you use that punishment skill when you already have inflicted torment on an enemy, or if you've inflicted cripple, because cripple has now decreased to 2 seconds. Well, it's not affected. If you use a skill that causes torment or cripple, your punishment skill will not affect the duration of the torment that's already applied or the cripple that's already applied. The cripple status effect that you cause from punishment skills isn't really that great because it's only 2 seconds. But torment skills from punishment is still pretty reliable if you already have torment applied to the target or targets. Unending corruption, which is a trait in curses. Oh wait, nope, that's wrong. It's in Scourge. Unending corruption used to. Oh, okay. Unending corruption is fixed. So it was supposed to always do a boon corruption, but it never did. It now actually will 100% convert the one boon into a corruption as it was intended to, and it affects 3 targets in the area. So if there's 3 targets in the area and you want to, boon rip them, and you use your manifest Sandshade, which is your F1 ability, you will now boon rip 3 people in that area, as it was intended to do. But Path of Corruption, which is ability in curses, it now only converts 1 boon into a condition. It used to do 2. People say that this is a nerf, but in my opinion, and to many others, really, they kind of made it even. Manifest Sandshade never did corrupt the boons as it was supposed to, and now that Path of Corruption only converts 1 boon, it's still as if you're corrupting 2 boons, if you use it correctly. If you're quick enough, you can pop down that shade to corrupt the boon on that person or the 3 people that you're near. And if you use your F2 ability, which is the Path of Corruption, or yeah, the F2 ability, because that's what it affects. You will now, like you were always able to, corrupt 2 boons and make them corruptions. So there's really no change into that. It's more of a time gated thing now instead of it instantly ripping 2 boons. It's more of you have to use this skill and use another skill in order to rip the boons. Red circles. If you all know, they made it so that your F1 ability, your Manifest Sandshade, and your F5 ability, Desert Shroud, has a 0.5 second delay. Also, if you don't know already, it is like a big flashing circle. That's why I had Shig on the enemy team, so that he could pop down one of those and show you guys that in the circle it's like super red and very easy to spot.
Yeah, I'll switch back to my Scourge.
Alright, when he gets here he'll show you guys. It's like super easy to spot. And it's very easy to dodge, so it's really like you have to know where the target's moving in order to actually successfully hit them with the Manifest Sandshade, because that 0.5 second delay is enough time for them to actually move, and it's kind of funny. And your F5 skill, if you don't know already, it actually affects people in an area, and that area of effect is also a big flashing beacon, basically. So yeah, it is a nerf. See, it is like a beacon. Use your F5.
You should see it in
you should see it in a Zerg. It's bad.
Hold on, I gotta get one
But
first, I guess.
okay, but if you can time it correctly and you can get it to work, you can use it properly.
Oh
It's
wow.
lava. It's like the floor is lava. You can see
Yeah,
the lava on the floor.
exactly. It's pretty bad. The next thing on the list is you can actually use Sandswell at your advantage. Everyone knows that you can teleport to the enemy with Sandswell. You get barrier from Sandswell. You can do boon stuff with it as well. But um, also, it's very useful because let's say the target is a melee user, right? You can Sandswell on top of them, making them think that they have you at their melee range, but then you cast your shade over them, and then you use your skills, which will deal increased damage. If one, and you're in the middle of the shade, not a lot of people know, but if you're standing directly in the middle of the shade, you deal extra damage. And two, if the enemy is standing in the middle of the shade, there are some damage multipliers. Um, I don't know the numbers exactly, but there is a bit more damage you do if the enemy is in the middle of your shade. I don't know the numbers though. Fear. There's some abilities out there that cause fear, like Staff 5 um, was one of the Axe skills causes
X3.
fear. Yeah, Axe 3 causes fear as well. It is not your best friend with shades because number one, they can't attack you in fear. But on a serious note, it's really useful because since the 0.5 second delay of your sand shade, um, you can now use staff skill 5, your axe skill 3, any of that to put the target uh, into your shade. So when you fear someone and you have a shade out, they will actually move toward your shade when you fear them. Um, Not a lot of people know it's something useful to know, because once you put down that shade, 99% of the time your target will end up walking toward that shade. So you could pop the shade down, give it a second or two, fear your target. Their target will go straight into your shade, and then you can use your desert shrouds or any of that matter. Um, Plague Signet. A lot of people use the Plague Signet in World vs. World. I'm going to tell you some reasons why it's not really good to use Plague Signet in World vs. World. Number one, all of your allies near you, so every single one of your teammates, let's say you got a 40-man Zerg, all those 40 people you're next to, all of the conditions that they get put on them, most likely are going to end up corrupting and putting on you instead. Because the passive of Plague Signet is it transfers conditions from your allies to yourself so that you can send your conditions to a single foe. This is only really useful if you're like a roamer or if you're doing like PvP content. You don't want to use Plague Signet when you're zerking. It's a really bad choice, and it's one way to get yourself killed really fast. Other than that, I would use Plague Signet if I was roaming, or doing anything else. But when I'm zerging, I always change it. I never use it. Some skills that people don't know. Some people don't know what skills to use for the utilities. I recommend Serpent Siphon, Desiccate, Poison Cloud, Trail's even good as well, and also Sandswell, of course. Um, they're really good to use. They have probably the most useful things that you can do to your targets. But Plague Signet, like I said before, I wouldn't use that when I'm zerging. Anything else I actually would use. Ghastly Breach, Sand Flare, uh, any of those abilities, they're pretty good. There's another healing one that I really like too. It's called, if I can find it here. Actually, I can't look at it right now because I'm being attacked.
My bad.
It's fine. Um, Spectral Armor. That's something that a lot of people like to use. Because it gives you protection, for one, and it also does some condition stuff. And it also gives you life force when you get attacked, if you didn't know that. Sometimes it procs, actually, if you don't even have the skill active. Um, I honestly don't know how it happens, because I haven't really been able to test it much, but I've actually seen Spectral Armor proc on myself, and I don't even have the utility active. So I'll end up getting life force when I'm getting attacked, and I'll actually have protection as well. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know why it happens, but sometimes Spectral Armor will proc on you, even if you don't have the ability. Sometimes you'll notice that you kind of go into like you're kind of invisible for yourself. You're kind of like glowing green. That's Spectral Armor. And once again, I really don't know how it happens or why it does. You
Isn't
can
it the
look at
soul
every
reaping
single.
trait?
Is it? I've looked at everything and I've never figured out why it does that.
I think it's the one of the passive, not passive, but one of the like auto picks or whatever you call it.
There it is, right there. Yeah, it is. Lesser Spectral Armor. There you go.
Good job, dude.
So you don't need it. If that doesn't answer why you don't need it in your utility slot, that's why you don't need it. Weapons. A lot of people wonder what weapons to use as scourges and many builds that they use. I'm not gonna tell you what weapons to use. I'm not gonna force you to use them. I'm gonna let you decide what you want to use. But for me personally, I love to use staff as my main hand, and I love to use axe and dagger because you do boons. You rip boons and turn them into conditions with one of the dagger skills. Cause blindness, so the next attack from your targets don't hit you. You do some bleed procs, and you can even do some normal damage outside of Condi, which is pretty good to have, especially if they're able to, take off your Condis. You have something else you can use at your advantage. Let's see what else. It also does some weakness. But the main reason why I use dagger or axe and dagger is because of the fact that my fifth ability does a boon conversion, which is actually really useful. I don't recommend using scepter and torch. Again, I'm not gonna force you to change your builds or how you work them, but I only say this because all scepter and torch is doing is adding more burning, torment, and bleed procs. Don't get me wrong, people love that shit. Like, it's what they want. They want all the Condi. But if you can focus and you can get your conditions on your target without any issues, you don't need that scepter and torch because you can already apply all those Condis without any problems, and they're already on your target. But if you're struggling with the Condi and you can't really get them on your target, I actually would recommend using a scepter and torch because it'll actually get you where you need to be in adding those Condis to your targets. But I guarantee you, besides all that, I guarantee you, if you don't use your scepter and torch at all, you will be able to apply all of the Condis you need. You'll be doing high damage, and you'll probably be even doing higher damage than you would with scepter and torch. I guarantee you. I tested it with Shig earlier. He was hitting about almost 1,500 condition damage per condition on me without scepter and torch. And when he used scepter and torch, he was only hitting maybe about 600 per Condi. For the builds, we all once again, I'm not going to force you to change or anything like that, but we have there's Celestial, Dire, Trailblazers, even Zerker is in the list, as funny as it sounds. But it's all up to you what you want to play. Do you want to be a Power Scourge and do massive amount of damage and not care about Condi at all? I suggest going Zerker. You just need to sustain better, or you just need to work on your sustaining. And switch out curses for blood magic, because that could really help you. If you love Dire and Trailblazers, I would stick with curses, because you'll be able to deal massive damage with your Condi. And if you can outplay your targets and shade their asses, Well, there you go. You're basically doing all your damage. Celestial, if you want to run that, all right. You got a mix between extra sustainability and you have all your damage you really want. It's still good damage. Honestly, for me personally, I find the Celestial I don't need the extra sustain. I really don't. So I decided to go with either Dire or Trailblazer. I've gone Zerker before, and on the damage meter, I've hit over the millions. Acri from VNG has also done the same thing, and some other people. But that's just out of my personal experience. How you want to play is up to you. How you want your build to be, that's all up to you. I'm only here to give you guys pointers and ideas of what to do. You guys have any questions for me? Anything you need me to clear up? Maybe I didn't say something properly. Nothing?
Sounded good to me.
What do you use for your weapons, Sigil?
I personally, I personally run. On my staff, I run Corruption, Bursting. On my axe, I actually don't have anything on my axe right now, but I need to fix that. Sometimes I'll run Malice, and I just crack. But on my dagger, I have Bursting.
Yeah. I run Malice and Corruption for both sets, so Air and Fire are good options as well.
Yeah, those are pretty good as well.
In World v World, what's your 6-0 skill?
Let me just get back into game, and I'll be able to tell you.
Because that's something I've been playing around with a lot, is sustainability, but as well as, I don't know. I'm just trying to balance everything.
Don't kill me, you assholes!
Alright, so my 6-0 ability is Sand Flare, Serpent Siphon, Sand Swell, Trail of Anguish, and Ghastly Breach. Sometimes I'll take out a Serpent Siphon and I'll change it with Poison Cloud. I'll use Desiccate. I even will change it, like I said before, I will use Plague, but I will only use the Plague Signet when I'm roaming by myself or with a very small group of people. A very small group of people. I don't want like 6 people.
What's your opinion of the Signet of Undeath?
Signet of Undeath? I mean, like,
I've never actually heard of that one. I'll look at it as well.